Hey everybody, Coach Will here again with another workout program for you guys. Again, this program can actually be adjusted so that you can turn it into a progressive or a several week or a month-long program as well too, changing most likely the time-based intervals into rep-based intervals. I'll be supplying you guys with an Excel template with that as well too, if you guys would like that. That being said, this workout is going to come to you in 3 different parts. Part A, composed of 3 exercises. First one is going to be an iso mid-thigh pull. Now with this one, we're going to be grabbing a strap. Now you can also be using a beach towel as well too for this. I'm going to be taking that strap, standing about hip width apart on top of it. Now from here, I'm going to assume an athletic position, so pushing back through the hips, slightly bending through that knee, nice and stable position. And I'm going to be cinching up my hands so that with that tense shoulder position, I have my hands about mid-thigh position. My armpits are going to be slightly ahead of where my hands are. Now from this position, because it's going to be an isometric, I'm not going to be changing my body angle at all, but I'm really going to focus on a deep breath, big brace, and I'm going to be driving through the ground, imagining that I'm pushing or trying to drive my hips forward, trying to extend through the legs, but because I keep that tension through the upper body, I'm not moving at all. This is going to be going through 5 repetitions, and we're going to be holding for 6 seconds. After that, you can reset, change position, stand up if you need to, but quickly, because you're then going to be doing another 6-second hold. Big push, driving the heels into the ground, big tension through the hips. Again, holding that position, big brace, relax until you've finished 5 repetitions. After that, we're going to be going on to a side plank rollover. With that, we're going to go down to the ground. Now we're going to take this slow initially. You can build speed as you get comfortable with the movement. That being said, we're going to start up with, as always, for a side plank position, elbow underneath the armpit, bending through the hips, having the knees slightly bent as well. This can be done from the knees or from the heels. Nice and stable. I'm going to come on up so that my nose is in line with my midline. So nose, sternum, belly button. From here, I'm going to drop down to front plank position, keeping the hips low. And then opposite side coming on up, nice and stable. Pushing that bottom elbow into the ground. Control back to start position. Repeat. This can also be done from the knees. Control down to front plank. Opposite side. Big brace the entire time. Exhale as you roll over. That one is going to be done for 30 seconds. After that, we're going to go into squat jumps. So 15 seconds to recover as you transition into the squat jump, making sure that if you have a low ceiling, you can also change this into just a loaded squat position. Now for this one, feet outside of shoulder width, knees tracking in line with the toe. We're going to drop on down to that squat position, holding it at that depth. And then it's going to be an explosive jump up as high as you can. Focus on soft landing. This is going to be 30 seconds. Now again, take it nice and easy. If you have a very low ceiling and you can't do this outside, then I definitely would recommend just going into a loaded squat position. Still 30 seconds for that. And that's going to be part A. Part B, this is going to be done for 3 to 4 rounds. Now we're going to have you guys starting with the step up, 30 seconds each side. I'm going to be using a chair for this one. I'm going to show you from the front, then turn to the side so you guys can see it as well too. So from this position, I'm going to be standing, planting my top foot down on this stool or on this chair. Now again, ideally when you're setting on up, trying to pick something that is just high enough so it's just below the knee for that maximum challenge. That being said, you can also go a little bit lower as well too and focus on going for loading in position. Now from here, I want to see knee tracking in line with the toe, slight bend forward through the trunk, slight bend into that front knee, getting that tension in through that right glute or that front glute. Again, from here, it's going to be tall stand, and then slow on the way down back to start position, keeping that tension on that front leg. Repeat. This is going to be 30 seconds one side, and then switch on over. Now, you can also be bringing in some weight, whether this is bring my gym bag in, whether you have dumbbells, kettlebells, something along those lines. But one movement that I actually really like is if you have access to a bike inner tube or an elastic band or a stretching band, you can be sitting this underneath the chair, planting the foot, And now from here we get to apply a little bit of accommodating resistance. So it's not too much resistance at that bottom position, but as I drive into that standing position, that band will extend, it'll lengthen up, and I have increased tension in that top position, and then I float down back to start position and repeat. Big drive, making sure you feel comfortable with it. I find that after a while that inner tube will stretch a little bit. Applying that tension can help. 30 seconds one side, 30 seconds the other side. The third movement in that station is we're going to go into hollow body. But first, let's actually deal with that second movement. So the second movement is going to be an iso horizontal row. Now I have shown this before in a previous video. That being said, we can go down into seated position. Now, I'm not going to be using a pair of pants like I did in my last video because I now have a hole in those jeans. That being said, for this one, I'm going to be grabbing onto 2 straps. Again, beach towel works just as well. From here, I'm going to be pulling the elbows just alongside the trunk, nice and tall position. Now from here, I'm going to focus on big squeeze in. What we're going to have you guys do for this is focusing on 6 repetitions now. I'm going to do a 5-second hold, so slightly different than what we did for the iso pull. Again, 6 repetitions, 5-second pull, recover, repeat. Big drive. Imagine I'm trying to pull those elbows back towards the wall behind. Big tension through the upper back, trying to bend that or break that band as much as you can, or break that strap as hard as you can, and then relax after 5 seconds, doing 6 repetitions of that. Once you have completed that, we're going to go on to the third exercise. Now we get to show you guys it, the hollow body hold. From here, I'm going to be lying on my back, and I'm going to show you guys 3 different versions, starting with the easiest. So lying on my back, I'm going to push the low back into the ground. I'm going to slightly bend my knees, lift my shoulder blades off the ground, trying to keep my chin tucked back to keep my head in a relatively neutral position. Arms alongside the trunk, and we're going to hold for 30 seconds. Harder version, lengthen out the toes, point the toes if you can. Again, push that low back into the ground, arms alongside trunk. Hardest version, arms are going to come up overhead, toes really lengthening on out. Now from here you can see almost this bowing pattern through my body, nice and stable. Again, lifting the shoulder blades off the ground, holding that position, driving that low back into the ground, and then recover after 30 seconds. Like I say, for this one, you would be going through this station 3 to 4 rounds, resting as needed, usually going for at least 15 seconds between exercises, but trying to minimize that as well too to keep with fatigue. Part 3, the final portion, this is going to be 2 to 3 rounds through. First one we're going to do is going to be a push-up. Now, if you want a challenge, this can be weighted, especially if you have access to weight plates. That being said, if you have flour, rice, something along those lines, those will also work in a pinch. Now, for weighted push-ups, this is going to be 30 seconds. I'm going to be looking for, assuming that plank position, I want to have my elbows just outside shoulder width. As I drop down to the ground, my entire body is in line. From the ground, I want to see the arms are going to be bent, or the elbows are going to be relatively close to the side, not in that T position, that 90 degrees, but more close to that kind of that 60 to 30 degree position away from the side. If you have wrist-based issues, again, go from knuckles, big tall position up, and then repeat, trying to keep that line. You can also go from the knees or from an elevated position to make it easier. Again, control down, big drive, repeat. This is going to be 30 seconds. If you don't have weight, you can also make it harder by elevating the feet on a chair or a couch. Make sure that your feet don't slip like mine might. Again, control down, big drive, 30 seconds, trying to keep the trunk in line with the body the entire time. After that, we get to go into some bicep curls. Now, bicep curls, we can choose to be using an external weight. From here, I'm going to be using a gym bag. Again, I can do palms up, elbows alongside trunk, squeeze, control, 30 seconds one side, 30 seconds the other side. Try to add in a little bit of that control on the way down, avoiding any swing, and filling up that bag as heavy as you can, at least managing to get into that appropriate technique. That being said, if you don't have access to one of those weighted bags or a weight that you can use to add in a little bit more load. You can also go into another version of the isometric application. Now from here, bringing in that beach towel, that strap, I can loop that around. It helps to have it tied, but for today, I'm just gonna show you guys one stable position. I'm gonna go arm about 110 degrees. Now you don't need to get out a goniometer or an actual protractor to see what that is. The easiest way is go from 90 and then cinch up a little bit further back towards that start position. Now again, for this one, we're changing up the work to rest ratio a little bit. This is gonna be a 3-second hold. Now when I say hold, it's still trying to drive that palm up to your chin. Big drive, you should see my tiny little arms getting a little bit of that flex going on, but keeping that hand in one position. After 3 seconds, rest 1 second, and then repeat. You're gonna do this for a total of 10 repetitions, and then switch sides. Now again, starting to feel that burn in through the bicep, in through the arm as you go through, if you don't have access to any extra weight. The final movement that we're gonna show you guys is going to be the single leg Romanian deadlift, or the single leg RDL, and we're gonna challenge you guys by adding in a hip drop for this one. Now, from a stable position, we're going to plant my left foot down on the ground, and from here I'm going to be hinging at the hips. If you have something behind, you can slightly bend that knee. Again, still hinging. I wanna see that that back thigh and that trunk are one unit as I go through that hinge pattern. Now you can also move whatever obstacle you have behind to go through that movement a little bit easier. That being said, try to think about that lagging leg or this free leg on the right hand side, moving with that trunk like you're embracing your inner drinking bird. Now, this is a little bit simple. Once we get to that hinge position, we can make it a little bit more challenge. So as I go through that hinge position, I can think about rotating that free hip down towards the ground. You should feel that tension increase on that left-hand side. And then stand back up and repeat. Same side for 30 seconds. So hinge, hips are relatively square, but if not, really think about dropping that hip down, going for that tension into that left side of the hip. Stand tall, repeat. By all means, add some weight. So again, I can be using dumbbell, kettlebell, barbell. I can even be using one of the bands. That being said, I can use something I find around the house. Stable shoulder position, grabbing with both hands. I prefer, otherwise you tend to change or compensate position. Control hinge. Drop right hip. Feel tension in through the left. Stand tall and repeat. Final one we're going to talk about is going to be conditioning. So after you've done all 3 parts of this, again, part 1 is going to be 2 rounds, part 2, 3 to 4 rounds, part 3 is going to be 2 to 3 rounds. You're going to finish off with some steady state cardio. This is going to be a little bit longer than your day A, so we're looking probably around 20 to 25 up to 30 minutes, focusing on trying to have a conversation with somebody next to you, short sentences, going for that overall challenge. That being said, if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, have fun, stay safe. We're all in this together. Thanks.